The moment Sarah collapsed into the snowbank, her frozen fingers clutching her 8-month pregnant belly, she heard the deadbolt click from inside her own home, and through the frosted window, she saw her husband Marcus wrap his arms around another woman while pointing at her and laughing. Her body temperature was dropping rapidly, her unborn daughter had stopped moving, and the nearest house was a quarter-mile away through knee-deep December snow. Sarah Mitchell, 28 years old, with warm brown skin and long black braids now crystallizing with ice, was wearing nothing but a thin lavender maternity nightgown and bare feet, because Marcus had told her to step outside for just a moment to grab a package from the porch. There was no package. There was only his cruel plan to remove her from her own home so his mistress, a tall blonde woman in a red designer dress, could move in permanently. The burning question that would haunt this small Connecticut town for months: why would a man destroy his own family so completely, and what secret was he hiding that made him capable of such calculated cruelty? Sarah's teeth chattered violently as she stumbled backward, her mind refusing to process what her eyes were seeing. Through the warm glow of her living room window, she watched Marcus, her husband of 4 years, the man who had promised to love her in sickness and in health, pour 2 glasses of champagne. The woman beside him threw her head back in laughter, completely unconcerned that a pregnant woman was freezing to death just 20 feet away. "Marcus!" Sarah screamed, pounding on the window with rapidly numbing fists. "Marcus, please! The baby, think about our baby." He glanced at her once, his dark eyes cold as the December night, and simply closed the curtains. The temperature was 17 degrees. The snow was still falling. And Sarah Mitchell had approximately 45 minutes before hypothermia would take both her life and the life of her unborn daughter, Lily. She had met Marcus at a charity gala 3 years ago, back when he was a charming investment banker with an easy smile and promises that sparkled like the chandeliers above them. Sarah had been a pediatric nurse, dedicated to healing children, never imagining she would one day be fighting for her own child's survival. Their romance had been a whirlwind, flowers every week, love letters tucked into her scrubs, a proposal on a beach in Fiji with the sunset painting the sky in shades of rose and gold. But the man who had knelt before her in the sand was not the man who had just locked her out to die. The changes had started slowly, so gradually that Sarah convinced herself she was imagining things. First, it was late nights at the office. Then, password-protected phones. Then, coldness in their bed, his back turned to her even as she carried his child. She had tried to talk to him, tried to save their marriage, but Marcus had grown distant, irritable, cruel. He criticized her growing body, her constant fatigue, her neediness. Last month, she had found a receipt for a diamond bracelet, a bracelet she never received. Now she understood why. The snow soaked through her thin nightgown, the cold biting into her skin like thousands of tiny knives. Sarah wrapped her arms around her belly, trying desperately to keep Lily warm, to protect her even now. Her bare feet had gone from painful to numb, which she knew from her nursing training was a very bad sign. "I'm sorry, baby girl," she whispered through blue-tinged lips. "Mommy is so sorry." She had to move. She had to find help. The nearest neighbor was a quarter-mile down the private road, but it might as well have been 100 miles through this frozen wilderness. Their Connecticut estate was secluded, surrounded by woods, chosen specifically for its privacy. That privacy was now a death sentence. Sarah took one stumbling step, then another. The snow came up past her knees, each movement requiring enormous effort. Her lungs burned with cold air. Her vision was starting to blur at the edges. But she thought of Lily, innocent, perfect Lily, and she forced herself forward. She had dreamed of this baby for years. After 2 miscarriages, Sarah had begun to lose hope. When the doctor confirmed this pregnancy, when they heard Lily's strong heartbeat for the first time, Sarah had wept with joy while Marcus stood stiffly in the corner, checking his phone. She should have known then. She should have seen the signs. But love had made her blind, and hope had made her foolish. Now that foolishness might cost Lily her life. The cold was becoming almost peaceful now, which terrified the nurse in her. This was her body beginning to shut down, conserving energy, preparing for the end. Sarah fell to her knees in the snow, no longer able to feel her legs. The world was white and silent, the falling snow muffling all sound, creating a beautiful and deadly cocoon. "Help," she tried to call out, but her voice was barely a whisper. "Please, someone help." The lights of her own home glowed warm in the distance, a cruel reminder of the warmth and safety that had been stolen from her. Inside, Marcus and his mistress were probably sitting by the fireplace she had decorated with family photos, drinking champagne from the crystal glasses that had been a wedding gift from her grandmother. Sarah's eyes began to close. The snow felt almost soft now, like a cold blanket. Maybe this was how it ended. Maybe all those dreams of holding Lily, of watching her first steps, of sending her off to kindergarten, maybe those dreams died here, in the snow, betrayed by the man who had vowed to protect her. But then, through the haze of hypothermia, Sarah heard something. An engine. Headlights cutting through the darkness. A car door slamming. "Oh my God. Miss, can you hear me? Miss." Strong hands gripped her shoulders. A warm coat was wrapped around her frozen body. Through blurring vision, Sarah saw a man's face, concerned dark eyes, a sharp jaw, distinguished gray at his temples despite a face that couldn't have been older than 35. He was wearing what looked like an extremely expensive suit, now ruined by snow and her ice-cold body. "Stay with me," he commanded, his voice carrying an authority that cut through the fog in her mind. "I'm calling 911 right now. What's your name? Talk to me." Sarah, she managed through chattering teeth. Pregnant, 8 months, baby isn't moving." The man's expression shifted from concern to absolute determination. He was already dialing with one hand while wrapping his other arm around her, sharing his body heat. "This is Daniel Chen. I need an ambulance immediately to 247 Birchwood Lane. I have a pregnant woman in severe hypothermia, approximately 8 months along, minimal clothing, exposure time unknown. She's reporting no fetal movement. This is a life-threatening emergency. I need your fastest response. Daniel Chen." Even through her hypothermic haze, Sarah recognized the name. He was the billionaire tech entrepreneur who had recently purchased the estate at the end of their private road. She had seen moving trucks last month but had never met him. Marcus had made some snide comment about new money and forbidden her from bringing over a welcome basket. "Sarah, stay with me," Daniel said firmly, removing his suit jacket and wrapping it around her as well. "Help is coming. Can you tell me what happened? Why were you outside without proper clothing?" Sarah's eyes drifted to her home, where the warm lights still glowed with false welcome. "My husband, he locked me out. His mistress, she's inside." She watched Daniel's face transform from concern to barely contained fury. His jaw tightened, and something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "He locked you out? A pregnant woman? In this weather?" Sarah could only nod weakly. Daniel's voice went cold as ice, but somehow more terrifying than the December night. "Sarah, I need you to keep talking to me. Stay conscious. What's your husband's name?" "Marcus. Marcus Mitchell." Daniel's expression flickered with something, recognition? Sarah was too far gone to analyze it. Her eyes were closing again, the cold darkness calling to her. "No, no, no, Sarah, open your eyes. Tell me about your baby. You said it's a girl? What's her name?" "Lily," Sarah whispered, a ghost of a smile crossing her frozen lips. "I'm naming her Lily, after my mother." "That's beautiful. Lily Mitchell. Tell me more about her. What are you excited for? What dreams do you have for her?" It was a nurse's trick, keeping patients conscious through conversation, and Sarah recognized it even in her diminished state. But she clung to his voice, to his questions, because they gave her something to hold on to. I want to teach her to read. My mother read to me every night. I have so many books for her. Tears were freezing on Sarah's cheeks now. I bought a rocking chair, white, with pink cushions. I was going to rock her and read to her. You're going to do all of that, Daniel said firmly. You're going to rock her and read to her and watch her grow up. I promise you, Sarah. You're going to live to see all of it. Sirens cut through the night, red and blue lights painting the snow in alternating colors. Sarah heard voices, felt herself being lifted onto a stretcher, warm blankets being piled on top of her. Through it all, Daniel Chen stayed beside her, holding her hand, refusing to let go. I'm coming with her, he told the paramedics in a tone that brooked no argument. And there's a man in that house who just tried to kill his pregnant wife. I want police here immediately. As the ambulance doors closed, Sarah caught one last glimpse of her home, and of Marcus's face in the window, his expression shifting from smug satisfaction to dawning horror as he realized his plan had failed. The next few hours existed in fragments for Sarah. The warmth of the ambulance. Heated floor fluids. The frantic beeping of monitors. And always, through all of it, a warm hand holding hers and a calm voice telling her she was going to be okay. When she finally fully regained consciousness, she was in a hospital bed, surrounded by warming blankets and beeping machines. A fetal heart monitor was strapped to her belly, and the most beautiful sound in the world filled the room, Lily's heartbeat, strong and steady. She's okay, came a gentle voice beside her. The doctors say Lily is perfectly fine. You got here just in time. Sarah turned her head to find Daniel Chen sitting in the chair beside her bed. He had changed out of his ruined suit into what looked like hospital scrubs, probably borrowed from a staff member. His dark hair was disheveled, and there were dark circles under his eyes, but he smiled when he saw her looking at him. You stayed, she whispered, her voice hoarse. I couldn't leave until I knew you were both safe. He leaned forward, his expression serious but kind. Sarah, the police arrested your husband. He's being charged with reckless endangerment, among other things. His companion is being questioned as well. Sarah closed her eyes as tears slipped down her cheeks. Part of her, the part that had loved Marcus for years, wanted to feel devastated. But mostly, she just felt exhausted. Exhausted and relieved and overwhelmed with gratitude that she and Lily were alive. Why? She whispered. Why would he do this? Daniel was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. I did some research while you were unconscious. I hope you'll forgive me, I wanted to understand what kind of man could do this. He pulled out his phone, showing her a series of documents. Marcus Mitchell is deeply in debt. Your marriage, your family's money, was keeping him afloat. But a divorce would mean losing access to your trust fund. And your life insurance policy. Sarah felt the blood drain from her face. My life insurance policy would pay out to my spouse. $3 million, Daniel confirmed grimly. The woman inside your home is named Victoria Crane. She's not just a mistress, she's his business partner. They've been planning this for months. The magnitude of the betrayal hit Sarah like a physical blow. This wasn't a moment of cruelty, it was a calculated murder attempt. Marcus had looked her in the eyes, told her to step outside, and knowingly sent her to die. All for money. All for his own greed. I loved him, she said, her voice breaking. I loved him so much, and he was planning to kill me. To kill our daughter. Daniel said nothing, but he took her hand in his, offering silent support. His touch was warm and gentle, completely different from Marcus's cold grasp. Over the following days, as Sarah recovered in the hospital, Daniel became a constant presence. He brought her meals from restaurants around the city when she complained about hospital food. He read to her from the books she loved, his deep voice surprisingly soothing. He sat with her during every doctor's appointment, asking detailed questions about Lily's development. "You don't have to do this," Sarah told him one afternoon, as he helped her walk the hospital hallways for exercise. "You saved my life. You don't owe me anything else." Daniel stopped walking and turned to face her. In the afternoon light streaming through the hospital windows, his dark eyes were warm and serious. "Sarah, can I tell you something?" She nodded, suddenly nervous. "The night I found you, I was driving home from a board meeting. I was in the worst mood of my life, dealing with corporate politics, feeling empty despite all my success. I was honestly questioning what the point of any of it was. And then I saw something in the snow, and I stopped, and..." He paused, gathering his words. "Finding you changed something in me. Watching you fight for your daughter's life, seeing your strength even when you were half frozen, it reminded me what really matters. I've spent the last decade building a company, accumulating wealth, and I forgot how to actually connect with people. You and Lily, you've given me purpose again." Sarah felt tears prick her eyes. "We're not a project for you to fix." "No," Daniel agreed. "You're not. You're a miracle I'm grateful to have witnessed. And if you'll let me, I'd like to keep being part of that miracle. Not as some billionaire savior, just as a friend. Someone who cares about what happens to you and Lily." Something warm bloomed in Sarah's chest, something she thought Marcus had frozen out of her forever. Not love, it was too soon for that, but hope. The possibility that goodness still existed in the world, that not every man was capable of the cruelty Marcus had shown. "I'd like that," she said quietly. "I could use a friend." The first cliffhanger came 2 weeks later, on the day Sarah was finally released from the hospital. She was packing her few belongings. She had no home to return to, as her house was now a crime scene, when a lawyer appeared in her doorway. "Mrs. Mitchell? I'm representing your husband. He asked me to deliver a message." Sarah's blood ran cold. "I have nothing to say to Marcus. He thought you might feel that way. Which is why he wanted you to know this. If you don't drop all charges against him, he will release certain photographs to the press. Photographs that will destroy you and ensure you never see your daughter again." The lawyer handed her an envelope. Inside were photos of Sarah, intimate photos from early in their marriage, photos she had trusted Marcus with, photos that showed her in private moments. The implication was clear: drop the charges, or face public humiliation. "He can't do this," Sarah whispered, her hands shaking. "He's Marcus Mitchell," the lawyer said coldly. "He can do whatever he wants. You have 48 hours to decide." The lawyer left, and Sarah sank onto the hospital bed, the photos clutched in her trembling hands. Everything she had been through, the betrayal, the near-death experience, the slow process of healing, and now this. Marcus was still reaching out from his jail cell, still trying to destroy her. How could she fight a man who was willing to use her own trust against her? How could she protect Lily from a father who saw her only as a bargaining chip? She was still sitting there, frozen with fear, when Daniel walked in with a bouquet of flowers and a smile that immediately faded when he saw her face. "Sarah? What's wrong? What happened?" And suddenly, despite everything, despite all the reasons she shouldn't burden this man who had already done so much, Sarah found herself telling him everything. The photos, the ultimatum, the impossible choice. She expected him to pull back, to see her differently, to judge her for trusting Marcus with such vulnerable images. Instead, Daniel sat down beside her and took her hand. "Sarah, listen to me very carefully. I have built a tech empire from nothing. I have an army of lawyers, cybersecurity experts, and public relations specialists. If Marcus Mitchell thinks he can blackmail you into silence, he has severely underestimated both of us." His jaw tightened with determination. "We're going to fight this. Together." The next month was a whirlwind of legal battles, media attention, and preparations for Lily's arrival. Daniel set Sarah up in his guest house, a beautiful cottage on his estate that was nicer than any home she had ever lived in, and surrounded her with every form of support she could need. True to his word, his legal team dismantled Marcus's blackmail scheme piece by piece. They discovered that the photos had been obtained through illegal surveillance. Marcus had been recording Sarah without her knowledge throughout their marriage. Instead of giving him leverage, this discovery added to his charges. The media coverage was difficult, but Daniel's PR team worked tirelessly to shape the narrative. Sarah wasn't portrayed as a victim to be pitied but as a survivor to be admired. She gave interviews where she talked about domestic coercion, about financial abuse, about the importance of trusting your instincts when something feels wrong. And through it all, Daniel was there. Not overstepping, not pushing, but present. He brought her tea in the mornings. He rubbed her swollen feet in the evenings. He assembled Lily's crib himself, following the instructions with the same intensity he brought to business deals, cursing softly when pieces didn't fit and celebrating with genuine joy when they did. Sarah watched him one evening as he put the finishing touches on the nursery. He had painted it himself, a soft pink with white trim, exactly as she had described her dream nursery during their conversations. On the wall, he had commissioned a mural of water lilies, a tribute to both Lily's name and to new beginnings. "Daniel," she said softly, and he turned, a streak of pink paint on his cheek. "Why are you doing all of this? And please don't say it's just because you want to help. There's something else. I can see it." He was quiet for a long moment, setting down his paintbrush and coming to sit beside her on the small couch he had placed in the corner of the nursery. "5 years ago, I was engaged," he said finally. "Her name was Michelle. She was pregnant with our son. And one night, she went into early labor while I was on a business trip in Tokyo." Sarah felt her heart clench. "Daniel. I tried to get back in time. I chartered planes, pulled every string I could. But I was too late. There were complications. I lost them both." His voice was steady, but Sarah could see the old pain in his eyes. "For years, I blamed myself. If I had been there, maybe I could have done something. Maybe I could have saved them." He turned to face her fully. "When I found you in the snow, Sarah, I saw a second chance. Not to replace what I lost, nothing can do that, but to make sure another child didn't lose their mother because no one was there to help. Saving you and Lily, it healed something in me that I thought was broken forever." Tears were streaming down Sarah's face now. She reached out and took Daniel's hand, understanding finally that they were both broken people, finding unexpected healing in each other. "I'm so sorry for what you went through," she whispered. "And I'm so grateful you were there that night." "I'm grateful too," Daniel said softly. "More grateful than you know." That night, something shifted between them. It wasn't a dramatic confession or a passionate kiss, both of them were too wounded for that, too careful with their healing hearts. But Sarah fell asleep knowing that whatever the future held, she wasn't facing it alone. The second cliffhanger came on the night Sarah went into labor. It was earlier than expected, only 36 weeks, and the timing couldn't have been worse. Daniel was in New York for a crucial business meeting, unreachable on a plane somewhere over the Atlantic. And as Sarah gripped the edge of the kitchen counter, breathing through her first contractions, her phone buzzed with an alert from the security system. Someone was outside the guest house. Someone who had bypassed the main estate's security. Sarah's blood turned to ice as she pulled up the camera feed. Standing at her door, somehow out on bail and very much not supposed to be within 500 feet of her, was Marcus. He looked terrible, thin, wild-eyed, desperate. And he was holding something in his hand that glinted in the security light. "Sarah," he shouted, pounding on the door. "I know you're in there. Open the door. We need to talk." Another contraction hit, nearly driving Sarah to her knees. Her phone slipped from her hand, skittering across the floor. "Sarah." Marcus's voice grew more frantic. This is your fault. You ruined my life. Everything I had, everything I built, gone because of you." He pounded harder. "Let me in. Let me in." The door shuddered with each blow. Sarah grabbed her phone, dialing 911 with shaking fingers while simultaneously trying to reach Daniel, trying to reach anyone who could help her. The line connected just as the glass in the door shattered. "911, what's your emergency?" "He's breaking in," Sarah gasped, struggling to her feet, cradling her belly. "My ex-husband, he's breaking in, and I'm in labor, please help me." Marcus's arm reached through the broken glass, fumbling for the lock. His eyes met Sarah's through the door, and there was no trace of the man she had loved, the man who had promised her forever. There was only hatred and desperation and something that looked terrifyingly like madness. "You're not taking everything from me," he snarled. "If I can't have my life back, neither can you." The lock clicked open. What happened next became the stuff of local legend, told and retold at dinner parties and in news broadcasts for years to come. Sarah ran. Despite being in active labor, despite the terror coursing through her veins, she ran through the guest house and out the back door, into the December night. The snow was falling again, just like the night Daniel had found her, but this time she knew where she was going. The main house. The security room. Safety. Marcus chased her, screaming threats into the frozen air. But he was drunk and stumbling, and Sarah had something to fight for that was bigger than her own fear. She had Lily. She made it to the main house just as a car came screaming up the driveway, Daniel's car, driven by his security chief, who had received an alert about the breach. Behind him, sirens wailed in the distance. Marcus was caught halfway across the lawn, surrounded by security personnel who had been alerted the moment he bypassed the first perimeter. He struggled, screamed Sarah's name, but it was over. His reign of terror was finally, truly over. And in the foyer of Daniel's mansion, surrounded by security guards and the distant sound of approaching ambulances, Sarah's water broke. Lily Rose Mitchell came into the world at 3:47 a.m. on December 21st, delivered by paramedics in the back of an ambulance because there hadn't been time to make it to the hospital. She weighed 5 pounds, 3 ounces, and she had her mother's dark skin and her father's nothing, because Sarah decided in that moment that Marcus had no claim to this child, that Lily would be entirely her own person, shaped by love instead of biology. Daniel arrived at the hospital an hour later, having nearly caused 3 international incidents trying to get back from New York. He burst into Sarah's room still in his business suit, wild-eyed and terrified, and stopped short when he saw her sitting up in bed, Lily cradled in her arms. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I should have been there. I should have." "Daniel," Sarah interrupted gently. "Come meet your goddaughter." He crossed the room slowly, as if approaching something sacred. When he looked down at Lily's tiny, perfect face, tears spilled down his cheeks, this powerful billionaire, brought to his knees by a 5-pound baby. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "She's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Would you like to hold her?" Sarah placed Lily in Daniel's arms, watching as he cradled her with infinite gentleness. And in that moment, watching this man who had saved her life hold her daughter like she was the most precious thing in the universe, Sarah finally let herself feel what she had been denying for weeks. She loved him. Not because he had saved her, not because he was wealthy, not because he had provided for her when she had nothing. She loved him because he was good, because he was kind, because he looked at Lily like she was a miracle and looked at Sarah like she was worthy of being loved despite all her brokenness. "Daniel," she said softly, and he looked up, tears still glistening on his face. "I know it's too soon, and I know we both have so much healing to do. But I want you to know that you've become the most important person in my life, besides this little one. And whatever the future holds, I want you in it." Daniel's smile was like the sunrise after the longest night. "Sarah Mitchell, I have waited 35 years to find someone worth building a life with. I would wait 35 more for you and Lily. But I'm hoping we can start a little sooner than that. He leaned down and pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, then to Lily's. It was a promise, soft and sure, of better days to come. 1 year later, Sarah stood on the same road where she had nearly died, but this time, everything was different. The Connecticut winter was still cold, the snow still falling, but she was wrapped in a warm coat, standing beside the man she loved, watching their daughter take her first wobbly steps across the snow-dusted ground. Marcus was in prison, sentenced to 15 years for attempted murder, blackmail, and a host of financial crimes that Daniel's lawyers had uncovered. Victoria Crane had turned state's evidence and entered witness protection. The house where Sarah had nearly frozen to death had been demolished. In its place, they were building a community center for survivors of domestic violence, funded by the Chen Foundation. And Sarah? Sarah was finally, truly happy. Mama! Lily squealed, tumbling into a snowbank and giggling with delight. At 1 year old, she was healthy and joyful and completely unaware of the trauma that had surrounded her birth. She only knew that she was loved, by her mother, by her godfather who was quickly becoming something more, by the extended family of nurses, lawyers, and security personnel who had all played a role in bringing her safely into the world. Daniel scooped Lily up, swinging her through the air until she shrieked with laughter. I think this little one has had enough snow for today, he said, grinning. How about some hot chocolate? As they walked back toward the main house, their house now, filled with warmth and love and the chaos of a growing family, Sarah thought about the night that had changed everything. She had gone out into the snow to die, locked out by a man who was supposed to protect her. Instead, she had found life. She had found love. She had found herself. Some stories end in tragedy. Some stories end in triumph. But the best stories, Sarah thought, are the ones that start in darkness and end with light streaming through every window, filling every corner, leaving no room for shadows. This was her story. This was Lily's story. And it was only just beginning. If this story touched your heart, if it made you believe in second chances and the power of unexpected love, then hit that like button and subscribe for more life-changing stories. Share it with someone who needs to hear that even in the darkest December, spring always comes. And remember, no matter how cold the night seems, there is always someone out there ready to wrap you in warmth and remind you that you are worthy of being saved.